Wargaming? What is that? That is a very, very, very weird tank destroyer, to say the least. It is the Simovente CC-64 Vipera, a Tier 8 Italian Premium Tank Destroyer. So what are the core features of that thing? It has a 5-round autoloader with 8 seconds in between each shot and 400 alpha, meaning you have 2000 burst. You have magnificent armor and you look like a squished Sergeant York for the War Thunder enthusiasts underneath you. In any case, I think it is a good idea if we start looking at the tank itself with the gun. Because the gun is the thing which is rather weird. It is a 120mm gun, as already mentioned, with 400 alpha. We have 220 base millimeters of penetration and 264 millimeters of APCR penetration. The base being AP. We also have a HESH round with 515 alpha and 120 millimeters of penetration. Now, we have a base reload time of 36 seconds, a reload time in the magazine per shot of 8 seconds, and we have 5 rounds in our clip. Again, that is 2000 damage in 32 seconds. Why? Now the thing is, if you start comparing those stats to like other tier 8 tank destroyers in a game, like a T-28 prototype, like the T-28 itself, the TS5, excuse me, the what do we have else? Oh yeah, the WZ-120 GFT. You will start noticing that this thing, the Vipera, is really, really bad. Because the DPM of the Vipera is 1760 something. That is not good. It's genuinely not good, because what are you supposed to do with that? Like, what is the point of it even? You cannot even outtrade, and the thing is, you have an autoload with 8 seconds in between, and now you can compare it to something, how should we say, you know, like, again, a T-28 prototype, and you will notice that this amazing autoloader is actually slower than some fat American, which is just juggling the shells into the breach. Obviously, I'm making a joke a little bit right here. But the thing is, I don't really see what's the point of the Vipera as a tank destroyer. But then again, as we start to looking further into this tank, you will notice that it's probably not a tank destroyer, but more of a heavy tank. And then those 8 seconds reload time for 400 alpha make a lot more sense. Like, for example, compare it to the T-34. It has 12 seconds base reload time for 400 alpha. Here we have 8 seconds reload time. Obviously, I can't really compare the Vipera to the Turnwagen, because the Bofors Turnwagen is known to have very little DPM. However, it has amazing armor, which we get to the Vipera in just a second, and it has pretty good penetration, but trash gun handling. Speaking of gun handling, the Vipera, on the move of the hull, we have 0.25, which is absolutely atrocious and is one of the worst values ever. But if you just turn the hull or turn the turret, it's 0.1, which is actually fairly good. However, we have pretty bad dispersion with 0.44 and a long aim time of 2.7 seconds. Lastly, we have 10 degrees of gun depression, which is pretty poc, and we have 90 degrees of traverse angles. What does that mean? 45, 45, 90 with the turret. Basically what the stage 2 used to have until they buffed it to 190 to 90. You know, from -90 to +90 degrees. So, again, we established that the Vipera looks better as a heavy tank, or at least the gun looks better for a heavy tank than for a tank destroyer. So how is it with the mobility? It's the same deal. We have 36 kph top speed, 12 kph in reverse, 600 horsepower, giving us 11.7 HP per ton ratio. Yeah, that is not your Ferrari or Lamborghini. It is a Fiat, you know. Fiat 500, it's slow, it's unexciting when it comes to the mobility. So that is not that good. And there's not really much else to say about mobility, like generally it's not good, and the issue is because it is a tank destroyer, you're not allowed to boost it with a mobility slot with a turbocharger. You would need to use something like the Bounty turbocharger, which is kind of annoying because not everybody has it. But now, I think it is a good idea when we start looking into the armor of that thing, or rather the survivability. I'm moving a little bit out of the way here, but you can see we have 1400 hit points, which is atypical for a tank destroyer. We have 2100, obviously 210 millimeters of full armor, 100 on the side, 275 millimeters of turret armor on the front, and 160 on the side. To that we also have 360 meters of view range, and as you can see, this is our crew, commander, gunner, loader, driver. Speaking of the armor, again, you understand now why I think this looks like a squished M247? It just is, like Sergeant York. In any case, we have probably either this spot right here is already a weak spot, or only this one down here, but most likely this will be as well. But most certainly this spot up here will be 210 millimeters of armor, while this one probably as well, maybe it's a bit less. So that's already pretty good. Armor wise, again, don't forget this thing has 10 degrees of gun pressure, meaning we can make this upper front plate armor more effective. The thing is, we don't really know how thick the gun mantlet will be, because that doesn't look that thick compared to those cut steel plates. Those cut steel plates right here, those are the 275 millimeters of armor, for sure. This one, I don't know what this is. Maybe 120? It also depends, like, what is behind the gun mantlet, obviously. Like, maybe it's just nothing, and that will be the weak spot. Because let's be honest, if we look at the tier 9 Italian heavy tank, the Progetto 66, this one right here, you will probably also know that A, this thing doesn't have any cupolas, and B, that the gun mantlet is actually the weak spot with, I think, 270 millimeters of effective armor. I would need to actually look that up on tanks.gg, but I'm not as certain anymore as I used to be. But yeah, this is basically the weak spot, and this might also be the case with the Vipera. Maybe the Vipera also has the only weak spot, because if you look at the cupola, or rather the lag of them, that this most likely will be the weak spot. And it could be a pretty big one, it could also be a pretty small one, or Welcome just says, nope, that thing does not have a weak spot at all, like they did with the Bisonte. Obviously, we do have side armor. Probably it's more this plate right here, which is 100mm, meaning that you cannot really nicely side scrape. Meh. I don't really think that this part right here will be 100mm, and I don't think that the lower side armor will be 100mm. Speaking of other things, the turret actually reminds me a little bit of the stock turret of the Progetto. Give me a second, I just have to quickly open it. Yes, you know, this basically, it looks like the same thing. It's just like flat, you know, it's just flat, and then you have a gun mantlet in between. Actually, a fun story, apparently this used to be the top turret on the tank, and this armor was like 300mm, but they nerfed it to like 210, because I don't think that this is 210mm worth of width. It looks a lot thicker. So yeah, let's wrap the Vipera up, and I don't know, like, A, it's an Italian vehicle, so what do every single top tier Italian vehicle have in common? They have an autoloader. More specifically, an auto reloader. Why so specific? Because that is their gimmick. If I'm not mistaken, oh no, never mind, the British, the Taliban also has an auto reloader. But in general, it is an Italian gimmick. And it makes kind of no sense that they decided to not give the Vipera the auto-reloader mechanism. Because right now, like, what is really the point? You have not good DPM, and maybe you just shoot 3 rounds, and then you only have 2 more left, and then you have to reload for 36 seconds. 36 seconds is not that long, especially when you compare to the 32 seconds of clip time. But this thing, the Vipera, would definitely, how should we say, would have a lot more potential if it would have an auto reload, which would continuously reload the round. The thing is though, like, again, how would you balance it? You could say, okay, auto reloader, usually it like you have 5 rounds in your clip, every one takes 10 seconds to reload. And reload time for a shell in the magazine would be 8 seconds. So you get where I'm going, right? That you have the ability to trade in some minor DPM for a little bit better burst. Maybe Wargaming could give it 7 seconds in the clip and 10 seconds normal reload time, and maybe give it the heavy tank mechanism, which is like that they, if they don't fully reload, that they get an added bonus in the afterwards reload, you know? I don't know. The fact that it also looks like it has like no weak spots on the turret is kind of wicked. But then again, what are we supposed to say about it? Like, you know, it's not my jam. In any case, it might be interesting as a heavy tank. It's definitely not a triangle. Like, it's not going, like, if you played like your typical triangle, like you would, for example, the Shitpack, the Scorpion G, the Stritzwagen S1, I don't know, WZ120 GFT, you're going to fail, you're going to lose, you're going to be useless to your team. But if you play like a heavy tank, then you should be fine, you know? It's the same thing like with the FCM50T, where it has a heavy tank badge, but it's basically a heavy medium. You know, you cannot really play it as a heavy tank. I don't know. We'll see. It is odd, especially as it is a premium, but it's also kind of cool, I guess, because it might say that we are going to get an Italian tank destroyer line soon, TM. In any case, I do think, or do hope, that Wargaming should give it maybe not better accuracy. I would always love better accuracy, obviously, because I hate inaccurate guns. But I think Wargaming should give this tank an auto-reloader gun, A. And maybe just... how should we do that, then? Yeah, it's kind of tough, you know. Maybe give it 10 seconds to reload the per shot on an auto-reloader basis. And 8 seconds if you want to clip. And don't only give it 4 rounds instead of 5. Maybe something like that. I don't know, because this is just too weird. Like, don't get me wrong, I like weird tanks, like, genuinely. I genuinely do. I don't dislike, for example, the idea of the Astron Rex or the Shuffle 4. Like, the Shuffle 4 is one of my most favorite tanks in the game, and it has a 4-second reload time. But, again, 4 seconds. You can play it as a clipper. You have to play it as a clipper. You cannot play the Vipera as a clipper. Like, even the Astron Rex, which needs 16 seconds to empty its clip. Half of what the Simovento needs, which is 32. I don't know. In any case, let me know in the comment section below what you think about the tank. Don't forget to fill out the survey Wargaming provided for this vehicle, which I'll leave in the comment section below. With that, thanks so much for watching, and goodbye.